Hello. Today we will be going over the Nakamura-Carlsen World Blitz Tiebreak games. They recently had the World Blitz Chess Championship in Moscow. And Carlsen and Nakamura both ended, they were tied. So we have to have a Blitz playoff. They were tied for the lead in the World Blitz Chess Championship. This is game one of that championship. I'll be going over both games. So, Nakamura has white, Carlsen has black. We have e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, knight f6. We have a Berlin defense. d3. Let's see, at the opening, sometimes they castle. Then knight takes e4. But what we have here is knight f6, d3, a solid approach. Bishop on c5, c3. This game ended in a draw. Both sides castle. Carlsen plays d6, h3, hitting a6, hitting the bishop. Bishop moves. Then attacking the bishop again. Rook e1, rook e8, b4, hitting the bishop. Bishop back to b6, a4, hitting b5. Let's see, I like that. Yeah, that was an option by the computer, a4. Carlsen simply develops knight b d2, heading to f1 and maybe g3. Carlsen repositions his knight f1, a5. It's a good move. a5, b takes, rook takes. The rook takes was better than bishop takes, but they say, computer says position is equal now. After rook takes, bishop to e3, bishop exchange, knight repositions in the center, knight g6. That knight has a future on f4, attacking the king side. A takes, rook takes, bishop, a4, hitting the rook. Bishop takes, queen c2, and then we have knight f4 finally. King to h2, queen to b5. I believe Carlsen developed an advantage in this game, but didn't capitalize on it. Queen to b2, rook there, hitting the queen. Queen takes, rook takes. And black is slightly better. Rook to b3, hitting c3. g3, hitting knight. Knight goes back to e6. Knight d2, hitting rook a8. King to g2. We're still about even here. f3, knight to d7, d4. Going for the center. Maybe a future d5, hitting the knight. But then the knight could come to c5. f6, h4, h5. Centralizing the king. Right now, really, black has a slight edge, but the position is basically even. Then there's that d5. Computer says white should have held off on that d5. Because the knight can go to c5. Which it did. So computer likes trade the rooks here. Rook to a2. Knight goes to c5. Here's where Carlsen, his advantage is increasing. This is an interesting position. If one of the rooks take, then rook just takes. So here we have rook dc2, king to f7. Carlsen just ignores that the c1 rook is attacked. You take my rook, I'll take yours. King to f7. If you take my rook, I'll take yours. This is very interesting. I saw this and I didn't quite get it. King to f7. If rook takes, well, actually, knight d3. Knight d3. Check is better. But he can play rook takes. And he's better here. Then rook to c2. Then they exchange rooks. And c3 is weak. So we have knight a4, and black will pick up the c3 pawn. But the resulting position will probably still draw. Knight to b4, then we pick up the pawn. It's just interesting. Carlsen says, well, I'll just ignore the fact of the positions of the rooks and just play king f7. Do you take my rook? I'll take yours. So they play king to e2. Then they exchange rooks. g6, but black has an advantage here, but he doesn't convert it. f5. Now things are starting to heat up here. And black is simply better. White has a bad c3 pawn. Black has e5 and f5 pawn at the center. The knight on c5 is strong. Eyeing d3. Black just has a better center. Now f4 was a mistake. Should have simply played maybe exchange pieces, rook b4. But f4 was a mistake, a slight mistake. G takes, then knight f6, and that knight can come to e4. Also, h4 and c4 are weak. Rook down. Knight takes pawns. They're better. Yeah, the knight f should have just simply gone to e4. Actually, Carlsen had a commanding lead here. If knight e4. See, instead he takes the pawn, because if knight takes, then he takes the pawn, check. If knight takes d5, let's see if I can get that here. Let's go back. So he plays knight takes d5. Wait a minute, can we go? Oh, I must have maybe I'm missing something. Oh, let's see. I thought he could take. Wait a minute. Knight, rook. Knight takes d5. Knight takes check. My question is, why can't he take that knight? Oh, here it is. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, if knight takes d5, then rook takes. And c3 is weak. And black is just slightly better. Because now the rook is scooping across this rank here. f4 and h4 are weak. If the rook comes down, the rook comes to h1, or comes to h1, you can hit that h4 pawn. If the black king goes to g7, then he controls h8 and f8. So knight takes. So instead, Nakamura plays knight takes check. Wait a minute, the eval dropped. The eval went knight takes d5. Oh yeah, knight. So that's why. After knight takes d5, then he squandered the advantage. Knight. Oh, oops, not you. You. Knight here was winning. Yeah. because if oh, it can't go there. My knight's on c5, and c3 would drop. I see, yeah. So knight fe4 was the winning move that Carlsen did not quite play. He did not play. Instead, he tried to do some trickery here. Knight takes, then Nakamura responded with knight takes, and the position is now equal. C takes, knight takes, king, knight b4. So Nakamura escaped, hitting c3, hitting the rook. Then he takes this. So actually, Carlsen made another mistake here. Made a mistake here. Rook h8. Rook takes c3 was correct. Instead, he played knight takes c3. Because this allows knight to c2. So Nakamura missed his chances also. Knight c2, hitting the rook. If the rook here, rook b3, then simply king to c4. So knight takes was a mistake. Which in blitz, you know, of course, it's hard to see these things. So you know, that's part of blitz. Rook to h7, but knight takes c3. Knight c2 was the winning, basically probably winning. It was the winning move here, knight c2. So king to e6, rook up check, king to c4, knight c2 still misses. So if knight c2, he would have to give up knight c2, then rook a4, then they take c3, then he takes on f4. If he gets if he takes h4 pawn, it should draw. This is a draw, theoretical draw. It's a draw, rook knight versus rook. So that's very interesting. You know, Naka missed it. Knight d5, knight takes f4. Because of knight takes, which he did, then simply check, and then he sweeps and recovers the knight. He's up a pawn. Now we're even. h6, rook to h4. If he advances, then king down, and we'll pick up the pawn. And rook takes pawn. Then rook takes, king, king to e5, king to g6, then king in front of the pawn. And this is a draw. Alright, that's the first game. Both players sort of missed their opportunities in that game. But Carlsen did have he could have had a commanding advantage. So let's load the second game, in which Carlsen won. Second Blitz game of the World Blitz Chess Championship in Moscow. We'll go to infinite analysis. d4. Carlsen has white now. Knight f3. Bishop f4. e3. Knight bd2, bishop d6, bishop takes, we exchange, then takes again, then we exchange, c4, sharp move. We could go rook c1 here. I would probably play rook c1, but Carlsen wants to take, he takes back with development. Then rook c1, threatening discovery, so the queen moves, then we castle. b6, wanting to develop the bishop to b7, which he does. Rook f, centralizing. Bishop a6, wanting to exchange white squared bishops. Position is even. Computer says that wasn't exactly accurate. So bishop takes, queen takes, then knight c5. Bishop takes, queen takes. We have b4, don't we? So, and then knight e5, knight back. Wonder if I may have played knight df3 here. Queen f3, attacking the queen. Queen moves, hitting a2. Then knight c6. Okay, this is where it started to get interesting. Carlsen took a little bit of time here analyzing the position, and he was correct. Instead of taking the knight, which would have still been which would have been equal, he plays knight c6. Opting to give up the a2 pawn for activity. Naka moves with he doesn't like the threat of check here. But there's really no threat. He could have just simply taken a2 and gone for his chances, but white has a nice developmental edge. If queen takes a2, knight c4, then king moves, then rook d3. White is just active for the pawn. Then Naka takes. Then Carlsen plays aggressively. Even though he's black is up a pawn, white is very active. The knights are everywhere. The knights dominate the board. He even has knight d6. And the rooks occupy the center, basically. So g4, going for it. Knight c5. Then he plays knight d6. Knight e5 was stronger. Knight c e5. And he could have. So that was a mistake. That was a blunder, according to the computer. So queen takes b2, and then just going with his chances. Queen takes b2. It's computer's choice. So knight b3, rook up, and rook c4. White has a decisive advantage here. Rook c4. The queen has very little choices here. So computer likes rook, g5, and now he has a huge advantage. Knight moves, then rook h4. Carlsen missed this. Rook takes h7. Here, Carlsen missed mate in 3. Here, Carlsen could have went rook takes, king takes, queen h5, and then king g8, knight mate. So he misses rook takes h7. I mean, this is a blitz game. Instead, Carlsen plays knight takes f7. Yeah, knight takes f7. I missed that. Yep, the knight's protected by the queen. Because if king moves, the knight... So the knights came in handy here. Then knight e7 is made. I mean, the knights were positioned already for the attack. So Carlsen plays knight takes f7. He's forced to take. Queen takes. Mate 10. Queen to e2. Carlsen plays rook takes, just picking up material, though he had mate here. Even mate in 17 here. Rook takes, king takes, rook to d4. The idea is rook to d4. I mean, he has all kind of threats here. But we play queen to e7, queen to e2, then rook takes, picking up a piece, then queen takes, still with winning threats. Carlsen's up a piece, so rook there, attacking. It's a good thing he has rook to f4. If he were to move the pawn, we have perpetuals. If the rook wouldn't go. So if f4, if he didn't have the rook here, this is perpetual, of course. But rook to f4 blocks down everything. Even if we have a mate in 8 here. The rook can take because queen here. Queen e8, mate. So that was a wonderful game by Carlsen. Carlsen wins the second game and therefore wins the title. He is the new World Blitz Championship. Carlsen is World Chess Championship in 3 formats. Standard, Blitz, and Rapid. So he's the World Chess Championship, all-around champion. Hope you enjoyed that game. Until next time.